Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Ginetta Cup. Season 3 is here, and once again, this fan favourite one-make championship promises action-packed racing, close battles, and plenty of drama. After a high-speed battle at Alton Park with Andy Boardman taking a hat-trick of victories, the championship now heads to the dunes of Zandvoort. This Dutch circuit is a rollercoaster of tight corners, elevation changes, and unforgiving gravel traps, making it a true challenge for all of our drivers on the grid tonight. Joining us in the studio tonight with the cameras is Ash Bibby. Alongside me will be Joseph Black, with RCI's newest trainee commentator, Amy, also joining us briefly in the background as well. Plus a huge welcome to our team of live stewards, keeping a close eye on the action to ensure fair and competitive racing.
Yes, hello. Welcome to the Netherlands. Welcome to Zandvoort, and well, we've got a pretty good race coming up tonight. I mean, it's I call it an oversized karting track, but I'm used to the F1 terminology, and it'll be interesting to see how the Ginettas do take all these elevation changes tonight. And well, we're in for a hell of a ride.
Thank you, John and Joseph. So thank you for welcoming me to the commentary box for the first time in Ginetta Cup. So, and also, hello viewers, and welcome to Zandvoort Circuit in the Netherlands, where this coastal masterpiece of a track is known for its twists and turns. Although the Netherlands is known for being a flat country, the natural forming of the sand dunes have created a challenging curve for our drivers to look at today. The track has two bad corners, which we should see some chances of overtaking from our drivers. Just like the well-known, well, if you don't know, the Dutch theme park Efteling, I already feel the tension and stomach churning already for these drivers. I'm sure our drivers are ready to get stuck in, just like the Dutch tuck in to their favourite dish, if you didn't know, the delicacy in Netherlands called hagelslag. I'm excited to see how our drivers tackle the circuit. Sounds like a lot of focus and control, and not to be underestimated for the track. What are your thoughts, John and Joseph, and any predictions from this particular races in here?
Yeah, it's going to be certainly a challenging hour ahead of the drivers today. Of course, as you alluded to, Amy, the bank corners of Zandvoort, a little bit different probably to what Joe is used to seeing here. This is the old version, of course, of Zandvoort as we head down towards turn one. Big long braking zone into the Tarzan Bock. Be careful of the gravel trap on the outside. Very wide corner, although two lines really through it. The inside line always prevails with the banked nature of the corner as we head up through turns 2, 3 and quickly into 4. Another bank corner. The low line normally prevails, and getting a good drive off of this corner will set you up very well by the time we head over the dunes and down towards turn 8. So we cascade through 5, 6 and 7. A nasty puddle normally through 6 if the skies do open, and turn 8, another long corner. Feels like it goes on forever. A little bit of a dip into the grass for Peter Lundqvist as he comes through now down towards turn number 9. A bit of a deceiving corner, looks wider than it actually is, and the same prevails for turns 10 and 11. It's a very tight, slow second gear corner. Again, a good run off this corner is crucial because up the inside of 11 could be a good passing place as Lundqvist struggles to get the front end of his Ginetta bitten into the apex. A good run off of here down towards turn 12. You've got to be careful again. It's a good passing place, although the inside will become the outside by the time we get to 13. And Lundqvist overcooking through the gravel, clattering over the curbs. That's going to be a lap invalidated, but we'll ride out the rest of the lap down towards turn 14. Again, another kind of open corner, looks more deceiving than it is before jumping on the power for what should be a flat out turn 15 if this nice dry weather prevails. However, top right hand side of your screen, Kevin Boss has thrown a spanner in the works for today. Rain due in half an hour and a bit of a mixed race ahead of us, Joe. So weather could be the turning factor for most of the drivers here. Lundqvist completing a lap, and very different to the tarmac Zandvoort that you're probably used to from the F1 titles.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some similarities, but you're always going to get a different race thrown in, not just because of the track layout, but the cars as well. They'll take the corners very differently. The approaches will be slightly less on the overspeed side, and more just trying to feed the car through the corner. And well, so far it's not gone the way of the driver we were just on board with Lundqvist, but Lindgren in P2 and Callum Kerwin in P24 at the moment. He is just trying to set a lap, as that last one was not the lap that he would have wanted. 4.3 seconds off of the pace at the moment. And well, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one for me, especially. I mean, for example, the gravel trap that we saw the car we were on board with struggle with. That's not one I usually see taken that badly, just running off wide. But everything tonight is going to be new to me, despite the fact that I'm a pretty big fan of this circuit. And well, we should be in for a good race. And the drivers at the moment fighting over who's going to be the cream of the crop. Badowski's gone up into P2, by the way, and well, the battle for pole is most certainly on.
Yeah, battle for pole as always. Andy Boardman at the top of the field, but not by much. Badowski there just behind. He's coming out of the pit lane to start another run. 7 minutes just over on the time to get done. Will Stevenson has been Andy Boardman's closest rival in the championship so far. Currently down in P5. He's looking for an improvement this time. By across the line he goes. An improvement it is, but only P4. Pulling over, stopping, back to the pit lane. A little bit of a bump there to Les Stevenson, I think, if my eyes aren't mistaken me. But Will back in the lane. He'll come back out as well to take another stab at it, although nearly 4/10 off the top time. That's quite a big margin that we see for Will Stevenson. Christian Lindgren, he signed out of the championship just a few weeks ago. He's now back in. He actually wants to have another stab at this one, and a bit of a Ginetta fan, Christian Lindgren, I believe, taking a Ginetta Cup title with us at RCI as well. As Martin Schaefer towards the line, he'll go P21 currently across the line. P14, it's a solid improvement, puts him just ahead of Ted Edwards, just behind Les Stevenson, and just over 14 cars, Joe, covered by a second And with the amount of grass and gravel we have here, that's a very small margin. That's, running wide at one of these corners or outbraking yourself, as we saw Peter Lundqvist do down here at turn 13 earlier on. And that could be a cascade of positions that you eventually drop to your rivals.
Yeah, it's not something you usually see at somewhere like Zandvoort, with all of those drivers so close together. And don't forget as well that even down to the likes of P17, Raphael Huel, the number 21, he's only 1.1 seconds behind, actually matching Peter Varga on that lap time. So interesting to see, and also interesting to see that it's all come early on in qualifying, all these lap times coming close together. So maybe there's just a few extra tenths in a lot of these laps that the top drivers will be able to find their way through, and they'll be able to take those extra tenths out of the lap, and will try to just break that field, as Peter Varga does go within a second of that pole time. He's 0.947 behind after a 45.357, and he slots his way into P13 as opposed to P18. This is the man that he was joint with Raphael Huel heading around the final corner, and he's going to come up to the line now. Where is he going to go in the number 21? Is it going to be an improvement, or is he going to stay in P18? No, it's going to be a huge improvement. 3 tenths, not necessarily the biggest improvement, but when it's all so tight, Raphael Huel finding those 3 tenths could be so crucial. If he finds another 3 tenths, he'll find himself up from 10th to 6th. So pretty good stuff, pretty good improvements. And with 4 minutes 30 left in the session, he's going to try now to find and extract every single little bit of time out of that Zandvoort circuit. As that was somebody going off in the foreground. Not sure who that was there, and well, not ideal.
I think that was Ted Urs with the terrifying face, and the number 48 somehow off the road there. Fingers crossed we won't be seeing too much of that today, although again the weather radar changing, top right hand side of the screen, rain due in 10 minutes. Of course, session will be over within 4 minutes, so we should be nice and dry here at least. However, track status is green, so logically the last lap of the session should in theory be the fastest. So it's all going to be about timing your out lap to your fast lap to that iconic, hot lap that you want to get for the pole. Andy Boardman eyeing that one up at the moment. A 44.4 is the time to beat. Badowski still very close by in P2. Christian Lindgren not far off the back, 2 tenths nearly there. Another 2 tenths or so back to Emo Plata on home soil. And then Will Stevenson nipping at the bit as well. Aaron Jackson finds himself within the top 10 for now. Matthew Malcolm, though, chasing him down as well as Ted Urs, Evan Toad and Raphael Huel, the driver that we know can be very, very quick indeed. But Ted Edwards for the Race Ventura number 8, hot out of Sebring. I think I saw him on iRacing. 12 Hours of Sebring this week, teamed up with the Race Ventura crew. He comes out of the last corner towards the start line. He'll go just under 3 minutes on the clock, seeking an improvement, and he does so up into the top 10. It's P8 provisionally for Ted Edwards. That's much closer to where we tend to see the number 8. So fantastic improvement there. Amo Plaza, meanwhile, home soil, as I said, the number 71 across the line. It's an improvement, but not good enough for a position, although it does make Will Stevenson think twice about Emo Plata starting on the same row as him as they take the run down to turn 1. Lap times coming thick and fast now, Joe. Marco Badowski, the next car towards the line.
Yes, and he is a 10th up on that lap time, so it could be pole position for Badowski, at least at the moment. Indeed it is, as he actually loses time in that final sector, and he goes up to pole position. He was 400ths behind. He's ended up 400ths ahead, so 8 tenths in that final sector is what he was able to extract, and 8 tenths throughout the whole lap takes him up to pole with a 44.3. We're watching now Aaron Jackson heading round the final couple of corners. Where is he going to put the number 99 Calue racing car? It's going to be it's going to be 6th place, and he is now 6.5 tenths off of that Badowski lap time. Will Stevenson in P4. We've got a lot of drivers capable of taking that pole position. We've got a lot of drivers who have had that pace to take what could have been pole position, as we now have with the car going up into under a second. probably the closest field spread that we've had. And, well, the top 18 separated by less than a second. And if you include Schaefer and P19, it's so close.
Yeah, I mean, a second, if me and you arrived at the same location a second apart, you think we turned up at pretty much the same time. And of course, a second in racing is much bigger than that. A second across the hour mark as Emo Plata towards the pole. He'll go. A surprise time thrown in from the Dutchman. The number 71 takes provisional pole position late in the game. Could this be the track rubbering in that we spoke about earlier on? The last lap will be the fastest lap, and Emo Plata is happy with that. He's pulled over to the side of the road. Maybe not enough fuel in the car. He won't be able to make an outlap to the flying lap, so that's Emo Plata kind of cemented in the pole position for now, shall we say. Badowski and Boardman, the next two nearest drivers to maybe have an answer. Will Stevenson in the 108, keep your eye on him. Raphael Huell has crept up inside the top 5 as well in the last dying minutes as the checkered flag comes out. This man here, Aaron Jackson, will be the first car to cross the line in the queue. 7th at the moment for the number 99. Is it an improvement? It is, but it's not good enough to take another position away from Christian Lindgren. And we've got a flurry of cars still coming across the line here at the moment. Raphael Huell in the number 21, the Ginetta Junior entry. They've been fast in the previous few rounds and certainly looking to try and capitalise a few more championship points on this run at the moment. We'll, of course, touch on championship standings in just a moment, but Raphael Huell currently P3 after a not-so-ideal Hungaroring. He's on the back foot for the championship title as lots more drivers cross the line. Lindgren cements himself in. Ted Edwards back to the pit lane. Shipston, Stevenson too. And Raphael Huell feels the lap isn't good enough. Practices the pit entry, which again is very tight here at the old Zandvoort. We'll have to keep an eye on any drivers that are going to get caught out by that. I can assure you there'll be at least one in today's race. Meanwhile, Marco Badowski, penultimate corner for him in the number 45 Team Monkey Racing entry. He can be one of the men that dictates the pole here. The Delta is looking relatively even as he comes towards the line. Bleeds a little bit of time out of the final corner. I don't think it's going to be enough to take the pole, and it isn't. Badowski does cement himself in P2, a little bit ahead of Andy Boardman. Matthew Malcolm sneaks up into P8 just ahead of Ted Edwards. Lily Armstrong fires their car through towards the end for a late 2 position gain. And on your screen currently, Joe, is the starting order for today's race. And very interestingly, Emo Plata, not a single purple sector to his name, but still good enough to take the pole once you stitch it all together.
Consistency is key, and well, just looking at that lap time, it's so close together between all of these drivers. In the end, 17 of them within a second, but 2 just outside, and that spells an interesting qualifying session. We've had a story so far, and well, we're only on chapter 1. We're going to head through now to the real race day when the action is properly going to get underway and the pace of the drivers is going to be tested in general as well. We're going to head to the race, but first, well, we've got a few reads to do, haven't we? We've got standings to come up, I believe, in a second or two.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Joe, the standings for the Ginetta Cup Season 3, everybody lumped into pro. So we don't have a pro and a silver and an am. It is every man, woman and child for themselves here tonight. So Andy Boardman currently at the head of the table. A hat-trick of victories cements himself 205 points. Will Stevenson, the next closest driver, with 167. Raphael Huell in P3 with 131. Ted Ers close behind with 119 versus Lily Armstrong's 114 points. We then got a tie between Marco Badowski and Tom Shipston. They're on 99 points apiece. Les Stevenson inside the top 10 with 76 points, and just a point behind, it's Aaron Jackson in the number 99. Battle of the Nines, though, Peter Lundqvist still looming inside the top 10 in the 999 Sim Brothers Racing entry with 67 points. Moving on to page 3, Ted Edwards also tied with 67 points. Ethan Toth just a singular point behind on 66. Callum Kerrigan on 62, 10 points behind Olivier Curtin, down in P16, actually practicing with him last night, and we were trading times at a very wet Zandvoort, so very capable driver in the right mindset. Emo Plata with 48 points. Mike Redford, a singular point behind with 47. Matthew Malcolm on 40 points. Kevin Boss on 36. Peter Varga on 33, and the most controversial surname, I think, in the commentary box today, Miguel Martins on 28 points, rounds out your top 20. We then read on through Rudy Filmalter on 26, Laurent de Jong on 23, Neil Pimlott on 21. We got Matthias Byron tied with John Schultzer on 14 points. Callum Kerwin on 13. We then got another tie between Scott Lawson and Martin Schaefer on 10 points apiece, and Gianni Lenz on 9 points. Christian Lindgren signed out of the championship, although is with us today, and a flurry of drivers just behind him here as well. 36 drivers initially signed up, 24 have made the server, and it's looking a very different Zandvoort on the B-roll, Joe, as to what we're seeing at the moment. Looks very cloudy down on the grid today.
Yeah, with rain looming over the drivers, we've had a few discussions about it, but we are now just getting ready with 2 minutes left on the timer, and they're just getting their final preparations ready. As we're just going to have a look at some of the cars that are taking to the circuits tonight. Of course, some of these you'll recognise, some of these may well be new to you, but they're all beautiful in their own ways. Until we get back to P15 and Les Stevenson, then we might have a different opinion. But this is the 33 of Lindgren, the Jurassic Park theme. Probably one of my favourite circuits. And we got the number 99, the Cajalines of Jackson. Looking back now, trying to see where that's very scary livery of Ted Erz's. Look at that. There you go. As well, I wouldn't want to be seeing that, especially not if you're at Alton Park in the dark, as we were last week. But if he's facing the wall like he did in qualifying, he's not exactly going to be the most scary car to have on your rear. We've got a lot of drivers actually here tonight, 24 taking to the field, and well, they're all getting their final preparations in. We will have in about 10 seconds time, we will have less than a minute to go until the race is where we get a lovely aerial shot of Les Stevenson's interesting choice of livery, but it's fair to say we had quite a lot of it on the broadcast the last couple of weeks. He's had some interesting fights. This is Redford and his achievements in RCI. He's got quite a few to his name. Looking further back, the last few cars on the field, the lovely pink one of number 28, Callum Kerrigan. Kevin Boss with, well, a lot of sponsors, some Asdorf movie references as well, which I thoroughly appreciate. And then down to the back of the field, Gianni Lons and the number 7, just to round out the field. But those are your liveries. Try and remember them, make a note, because we'll be keeping an eye on all of these drivers tonight as, well, it's about to get underway. Less than 10 seconds on the clock. We're about to get away for the Dutch round of the Ginetta GT Cup.
Yeah, just drivers making their final preparations, making sure there's enough fuel in the car. They're on a fresh set of dry tyres, and of course the correct setup has been loaded. Many a driver being caught out by that throughout their years within sim racing and ACC. I think I can relate to that, is the word I wanted to find there. Big shout out to, of course, everybody watching at home, and drivers. I know you guys do watch back the broadcast, so it's very good to have you here, and of course all of you at home watching along live with us. And a big shout out to the live stewards. Fingers crossed for those guys. It's going to be relatively simple tonight, although we know the Ginetta Cup certainly brings some elbows out racing. Mike Redford in the YouTube chat. Watch my curse continue down in P17, the number 95, if you want to keep an eye and see how cursed he truly is when we get around the first lap at Zandvoort. Time will tell. Fingers crossed, of course, for you, Mike Redford there. Remember, of course, down in the bottom left-hand side of your screen at the moment is our partners roll around. You can find all of their links down below in the description. But, of course, the first one being Ready, Set, Sim, where you can build your dream sim rig in seconds with their Sim Rig Builder tool. Their mission is to simplify sim racing by providing a comprehensive and personalized experience, whether you're a novice looking to get started or an experienced racer seeking to optimize your setup. Not forgetting, of course, the €400 prize pool offered alongside our RCI trophies with the RSS Endurance Series over on iRacing. You can find out more about that over on the website, racerci.com. And I think as of last night, still 5 slots left if you do want to get involved in that one. Coach Day Delta, faster lap times start with Delta, a setup and data analysis app for iRacing, ACC, LMU, and even Gran Turismo 7, which still astonishes me how console now have telemetry available to them as well. Check out their link down below in the description. Green Man Gaming, where you can of course buy game keys with Green Man Gaming. Get the best prices, awesome bundles, and exclusive game deals daily. Head on over to their website via our link in the description if you are looking for any new titles at all. IMB Racewear, providing fully custom designs to allow sim and real-life racers to make the impact they've always wanted in their clothing and wares. You can check them out down below. Moser Racing, who we partnered with just last year, need no introduction, a leader in high-quality sim racing gear. And not forgetting Motorsport UK Esports, where we're a recommended community. Quite a prestigious thing in the realm of communities nowadays, of course, with how many are available compared to, just yesteryear within the sim racing world. It's certainly shot up in the past few years, each and every one of them offering something different. But tonight, drivers are coming around the final turn, rolling towards the line 2 by 2. Emo Plata, of course, will be on the inside for turn 1. Badowski, if he wants to do it, it's going to have to go the long way around, although Andy Boardman will equally have the inside line as well. Cars jostling already in the background, briefly 3 wide. It looks like a good start for Plata. A little bit cautious on the brakes, allows Badowski to swoop around the outside, although side by side as they head out of turn 1. In the background, Andy Boardman has got the jump on Will Stevenson just about as they pinch down to turn 3 into the banking straight away of turn 4. Emo Plata looks for the inside, can't quite find the overlap on Badowski. There's a yellow flag out in the background, the number 46 involved in an early incident. We'll have to catch a race replay of that one as the drivers begin to open up across the dunes here at Zandvoort, with still double file in the background jostling for position, but it is Marco Badowski that takes his way to the first timing gate, followed closely by Emo Plata, Andy Boardman, Will Stevenson, and Raphael Huell. Christian Lindgren latched onto the back of this train, and it's a poor run for Emo Plata through turn number 9. Into 10 they go, and Will Stevenson fires it up the inside of Andy Boardman, turns himself around. Boardman keeps facing the right way, continues on, and Will Stevenson has to get that 108 turned around very swiftly and get back underway again for the King Brothers Racing. That's not an ideal start. Les Stevenson on the comeback from his earlier on incident, but it has allowed Emo Plata a little bit of breathing space from Andy Boardman behind. He can focus out the windscreen towards the back of Marco Badowski's car as they make their way to the penultimate corner of this opening lap, and everybody in the background single file now found their position in the train, and this is where we're going to be settling for the next few minutes or so as gaps begin to open up and close in various places. Drivers' tyres come in at different stages, and again, cars tend to reach the warm-up stage a little bit differently than the next one as well, so we'll have to see how these gaps progress. But it is Marco Badowski, the first car across the line. As we look back from Aaron Jackson, the most terrifying car in the field today is behind him. It's Ted Urs, and in the background is the train beginning to form. So this could be a plethora of positions lost if everybody starts getting their elbows out, Joe, which we've seen previously in the calendar already. And as you said, Zandvoort, a bit of a glorified go-kart circuit, gets very narrow in places, so I can assume there's going to be a lot of paint traded here tonight.
Yeah, and well, I happened to be watching on board with Shipston as there was that incident between himself and Stevenson. So essentially, it did tighten up a little bit too much for Shipston's liking as the curb attacked him a little bit too much. And then he ended up riding over it and into the side of Les Stevenson, spinning them both around, and meaning that they have probably the worst possible start that they could have had to this race around Zandvoort. They've now got to try and recover as they're not actually too far off the pack, with Stevenson now catching up just a second behind the other Stevenson. So not a good start for either of them. This is Callum Kerrigan looking to try and attack Kevin Boss, but Lundqvist behind could try to thread the needle through, as if Kerrigan makes a mistake, it can get latched upon quite easily. There's 2 seconds between Toth and Boss, so there's not going to be any slipstream coming into the number 31, and that opens up the door for Callum Kerrigan as Callum Kerwin goes off the track again, and well, he now drops to the back of the field as he's really struggled through the gravel trap of that final chicane. But well, we're watching Lily Armstrong trying to close in on Ted Edwards, who's dropped just outside of a second behind Ted Ers, as the gaps, as you mentioned, are beginning to form, and that is certainly a gap that is starting to grow. There's now over 1 second between the top 3 and then 4th place. There's over 1 second between 5th and 6th, and further down those gaps only increase, with the biggest one so far being Evan Toth, who is 2.2 seconds ahead of Kevin Boss behind. So those gaps starting to form, but battles also starting to form, starting to brew up, and this is one that could go on. And well, I believe we've got a replay coming in from those behind the scenes. This is the crash, or not the crash, the incident, as you can see there. Shipston just getting tightened up on, and well, that he goes around, does Les Stevenson, and now they are both recovering. They're back into they're back into that second behind, as we've got another one here, Andy Boardman up in P3 being overtaken there, and well, it was an attempt from Will Stevenson that didn't quite pay off, but in the end, Boardman lucky not to make any contact with anybody. I think it was just a pure mistake coming out as looking back at the fight at the rear of the field, and there's moves still being made. Number 77 just running off of the circuit, but not the only one. There was a car, or this number 777 running off the circuit. There was a car just in front that went off as well, as now we're watching Lily Armstrong run wide, and well, that's the car behind trying to head through, but Armstrong now in P10, and Mike Redford still trying to attack.
So lots of action happening down at turn 10 there. Of course, we saw the Andy Boardman and Will Stevenson incident. It's a corner that I always say is a bit kind of deceiving on the approach. It looks a lot wider than it is, but suddenly tightens up, and it gives the illusion that although the gap is there, it's a very quick closing gap, as obviously cars try to widen the corner on approach as much as they can to, get the tight turn in and get an early acceleration off. And I think the gap that Boardman left just invited Stevenson into that space, and unfortunately it closed very quickly. And we saw other drivers, of course, struggling to make this turn 10, as well as Emo Plata very late on the brakes, closing up the gap to the back of Marco Badowski. He's aware that, excuse me, Andy Boardman in the background is pressuring him. The purple number 3 next to his name signifies the fastest lap of the race, a 44.4. And Emo Plata last time by a 44.7. So the pressure is certainly on for Emo Plata. He's in a bit of a sandwich where you don't really want to be in these scenarios. You've not only got to watch the car ahead, you've also got to watch the car behind, and potentially even the car behind him, because a late desperate move, maybe it's not going to happen at this stage, but Raphael Huell 1.2 seconds down the road, if that gap closes up, Boardman breaks late to defend from a chasing car, he's suddenly in the back bumper of Emo Plata. So luckily the gap is broken away. The top 3 are beginning to spread out slightly. Boardman looking to the inside into turn 1, not close enough, but making Emo Plata aware that the number 69 is behind. I'm here, I haven't gone anywhere yet, and we're going to try and maybe work together to try and can get through Badowski, but Badowski puts up an excellent fight, as we saw last season in the Deutschland Masters and in these one-make series. Badowski is going to do the exact same. That's going to be one of the widest Ginettas on the field, and Andy Boardman gets quite aggressive in the attack sometimes. So normally these two do end up coming together, and if they do, of course, Raphael Huel in the background. If these guys begin squabbling, that's going to bring Huel in, it's going to bring Lindgren in, and it might even bring Aaron Jackson in. We could see a 6-car train at the head of the field today, but the track map looking rather condensed on the right-hand side as drivers all come through turn 10. Will Stevenson on the back foot, Joe. He's up into P17, but he's got to cut through pretty much the whole field to get towards the front once again. So strategy is probably going to be on Will Stevens' mind today, and how he's going to make this mandatory pit stop work in the most efficient way for the number 108.
And at the moment, he's showing pretty solid pace in order to try to fight his way forward. Of course, up to 17th, might be up to 16th very soon, as he's pressuring Callum Kerrigan as much as he possibly can. And, well, he's now going to pull to maybe the outside line, maybe the inside, and just staying in behind. There's no openings just yet, but he's going to continue to try to fight his one hard, and he's going to try and get the run out of the final corner, just to try and make that move ahead. He feels as though he's quicker so far. The evidence would show that he is quicker, and he pulls to the inside line of the final corner. Can he get ahead? Not quite, as Kerrigan gives him a right old squeeze, but I think the number 28 got a little bit scared of the squeeze that he gave. There's a little bit of a tap there as Will Stevenson tries to pull ahead. He's not pulled ahead as much as he would have wanted. He's going to have to make this one move into the first corner, make that move stick, and he does indeed. Now Olivier Curtin trying to attack Kerrigan, but the important part for Will Stevenson is that he's finally made his way past Callum Kerrigan. Even though it took a little bit of a tap between the two, he ended up sealing that move, and the next one up, the next car up for him to attack is the number 31, Kevin Boss.
Yeah, so the wonderful thing about lap one incident, we get a lot of drivers battling together that we don't always see. So like Will Stevenson, Callum Kerrigan, wouldn't ever put them together in the Ginetta Cup. Of course, Will's been predominantly top 5, Callum's been kind of top 10-ish, just outside of. So you get these drivers that don't want to give way maybe as much as you probably would think in endurance sense terms. I always say it's very wise to choose your fights in the much longer races within ACC, but these sprint races, they tend to create this kind of chaotic where nobody wants to give anything up, and every position matters because, of course, championship points on the line. Everybody's lumped into the same category. You haven't got to be a silver yielding to a pro. On paper, Will Stevenson and Callum Kerrigan today are both pro drivers. So Callum not wanting to give up that position at all made it real tricky for Will Stevenson, but possibly has put himself in jeopardy here with, of course, Olivier Curtin chomping at the bit. Friend Les Stevenson just behind in a very similar liveried car. They are friends on and off the circuit, but always put on a great show nevertheless, as Olivier Curtin gets a fantastic run out the final corner, draws alongside. It's almost a textbook 1-to-1 here with Will Stevenson's move, but Kerrigan tries to do the old up and under and friendly fire with Les Stevenson into the back of Callum Kerrigan. Callum gets turned up into the gravel trap on the high side, loses 5 positions in turn. Les, I'd love to be listening into the Monday Gang chat, because as you see Callum Kerrigan here standing on the brakes a little bit harder, tried to get the old up and under done, but found Olivier Curtin parked on the apex, backed off ever so slightly. Les Stevenson came in, gave him the old rope, gave him the old poke, and before you know it, Les Stevenson through, 5 positions dropped, Callum Kerrigan down to P22. And it does put now the battle of the Callums on the cards. Callum with a K, Callum with a C towards the back of the field. We'll see which one prevails, because I always get those two mixed up in commentary, and today will be no exception, Joe.
Yeah, and it's going to be, I think a little bit more difficult as well, because they are fighting each other, to not get them mixed up. But it is what it is, and well, we just hope that the viewers are more eagle-eyed than we are. But now we're watching Peter Varga, who of course did not have the race that he would have wanted last week. He's starting to pressure Mike Redford for P11. Of course, Redford now has a 5-second time penalty And that is not what you want to see if you're the man in P11 at the moment. That is also not really what you want to see if you're the man behind, just trying to wait and trying to get past him. Of course, he is going to fight it, is Mike Redford, well, he's currently sitting in P11. Varga trying to get that slipstream. Does he pull to the inside of turn 1? He does. I don't think he's going to go for a move here unless he's very, very ambitious. And no, he does just back out of the move. 47 minutes left. Maybe on the final lap, I'd back that move, but not quite yet. But yeah, Mike Redford picking up 5 seconds worth of penalty for contact with Evan Toth on lap 1, turn number 10. And well, there is all the reports coming in now from the lap 1 incidents, and it's Redford that picks a penalty up, and it's also an incident involving Kevin Boss and the number 13, who is Schaefer. One of them has a 5-second time penalty. It is Kevin Boss who will get it applied to his time soon. But at the moment, he sits in P20, 2.8 seconds off of Shipson. As this is the Redford incident with Evan Toth. Just a huge send to the inside. And, well, a little bit of carnage there. One car going off, one car span around. And a huge send there from Mike Redford. Maybe a little bit ambitious. Maybe just forgetting where his brakes are momentarily. Well, I think it's fair to say that 5-second penalty is fully deserved, but now he's got to try and recover from that. He's got 5 seconds, but he's in the middle of the field, so to try and break those gaps is going to be a little bit more difficult, and I think he's just going to try and go as quickly as he can, try and get up to those cars ahead, and well, maybe then he can start to think about getting a position in the top 10. But at the moment, 5 seconds worth of penalty is really costing his race so far, especially with how close everybody is.
Yeah, maybe the Mike Redford curse continuing a little bit there. It's a bit of a hard call, I'd say, the Redford and Toth incident. The gap was there. Redford certainly fired one up, maybe a bit overly aggressive for a lap 1 incident. And we saw, of course, Andy Boardman and Will Stevenson coming to blows on lap 1 as well, and that ended in a no further action because the 108 made the contact and lost out more, so no real extra penalty given. Essentially, Will Stevenson penalising himself with that move. We have had a very swift steward's decision, though, on Les Stevenson, currently on your screens. That was for lap 7, turn 1, involving the 28 and the 46. We managed to catch that one live here on RCI TV. And the 28 kind of backing up in the mid-corner to try and do the old up and under, and Les Stevenson driving through Callum Kerrigan like he wasn't even there. So I'd say that's a fair and just penalty there of 10 seconds. Meanwhile, towards the front of the field, Andy Boardman's managed to get the overlap on Emo Plata. And exactly as I said, Joe, these two start squabbling. Look who's in the background. Raphael Huell has joined the party in the number 21. This is essentially the battle for the second step of the podium at the moment, and Emo Plata now finds himself back in the middle of two Ginettas, but this time Boardman ahead and Huell behind.
Yes, and well, it's interesting to see now, as we could be seeing a little bit of fight back from Plata down into turn number 1, but taking the sensible routes, sitting back out as we still have 3 quarters of this race to go, and Emo Plata does not want to cost anything, as so far this race we've had quite a few incidents more than we normally would, and he doesn't want to become one of just a number today, as he does have Raphael Huell right on his rear wing and ready to try to fight him. We've got these 3 in a fight here with Badowski trying to break away, and this is his opportunity with Plata trying to pressure Boardman just ahead, and he's going to continue to try to pressure him ahead as he feels as though he's got that pace down that main straight. The evidence was that he did have that pace even, and he's going to try to fight forward very, very soon. The number 71 right on, well, it'll be all over the screens and all over the rear view mirrors of Boardman, but we're going to look now at Will Stevenson, whose fight up the field continues. He's in P13 as it stands. He's got Peter Varga and Mike Redford for company. Varga, who's still not been able to get past the number 95, and Stevenson, who does get past the number 508. He's through on Varga, and now he's going to try and make easier work of Redford than Varga ever could, and he's going to now head through the second sector, just trying to continue this pace, continue this momentum up, because so far it has been relatively impressive, that pace that he has had, and now he sits just under half a second behind Mike Redford, and Redford will be nervous ahead of the number 108 because he's seen everybody else just get dispatched by him nice and easily, and he's now going to try and fight forward towards Matt Malcolm, who actually does sit just in front of them. So maybe there was a mistake from a car in front of this group, because, well, it's interesting to see that he has been backed right into them, and well, he's been invited into the fight. We head now to the 10th lap of this race. We're on double figures now, and one day I'll remember to not say Grand Prix, but it continues on. But anyway, we shall move on, and I will try not to do that next time. This is the Ginetta GT Cup, of course. This is not a Grand Prix race. Looking further back at Martin Schaefer, right in the rear of Les Stevenson. And this is another battle that's starting to brew. We've got a lot of tense battles that are about to start, and they feel as though they're in their developing stage at the moment.
And just looking up the technical definition of a Grand Prix, and it's any series of motor racing that contests forming part of a World Championship Series held in various countries under international rules. So, Racing Club International. Yeah, maybe there's a Grand Prix in there somewhere, but certainly hard to shake coming from F1, I guess, Joe, referring to everything as a Grand Prix over there. So, yeah, definitely a bit different here, but still, you might be able to scrape this one into that definition nonetheless. Schaefer finds himself sandwiched between Stevenson and Shipston. Interestingly, Shipston, somebody I thought would climb the ranks a little bit faster after the opening lap drama. Certainly a bit more like Will Stevenson's speed, but Shipston, I don't think, finds himself too comfortable in the Ginetta compared to the Porsche that we typically see him in. I think the initial round that we saw Shipston it's got to be at least 2 years ago now, at British Masters, where we saw Tom Shipston for the first time, was in a Bentley nonetheless, as Will Stevenson gets the elbows out on Mike Redford. That's through the middle sector of the lap. That's turn 11 that's happened, and Mike Redford lucky to not lose a position to Peter Varga. I was going to say, if Varga's sensible, we can kind of tow onto the back of Will Stevenson, wait for him to open the door and slip on through Mike Redford, and before he knows it, he's lost 2 positions. But Mike Redford, nonetheless, still clawing on P12, with Peter Varga pressuring down his neck as the pit window opens at the top of the screen, the top right hand side of the screen as well. Track has just evolved too fast, so grip is building. Tyre pressures might change a little bit from what we saw on the gridding phase, and this might actually invite a few tyre changes for our drivers tonight, because you can't change the pressures within ACC unless you change the tyres. So we'll have to keep an eye on the pit stop timers tonight, see who's going to take a fresh set of Pirellis. And with reduced track grip here, Joe, and how much sliding we're seeing, I think it might be a worthwhile thing if we do see some tyre changes, and providing that weather widget doesn't change, because I've been staring at that an awful lot, and again, that's been relatively the same since we started the race. And we do know there is a changeable factor in the weather here tonight, but possibly the ACC weather system not doing what Kevin Boss maybe wanted it to do. But track is rubbering in, tyres are wearing down ever so slightly, so we'll have to see, will new tyres prevail here tonight? They certainly did, I think. Hungaroring, if we cast our mind back to round 2, a stark change in pace. The 5 seconds that you cost yourself in the pits, it was nearly a second a lap, I think, in some places. As we catch a race replay here, Matt Malcolm and Will Stevenson, I'm not sure if that was contact or net code. It looked awfully close from up here in the commentary box. We'll have to see if the stewards pick up anything on that one. Let's catch another race replay. Hard on the brakes, of course, down into the twisties, and I think Will Stevenson, there was a very, very minor tap as Matt Malcolm's car loaded up over the curb. The tap came in, and that was just enough to unsettle the Malk Racing car, unfortunately, into the wall, but gets back underway. Not too much time lost, but still time lost nonetheless, and I don't think stewards will be taking too kindly to that one.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard my little squeak, but that was why, because I was watching that one once again, and well, we'll see whether Stevenson does does face any consequences for that. It did look a little bit like netcode, but Stevenson will try to continue on regardless and put that incident out of his mind. Try to close up to Lily Armstrong, and well, just looking at the gap between 4th and 5th, as we watch on board with said Lily Armstrong right now, it's 7 seconds, so that is going to be the biggest margin, the biggest challenge for Will Stevenson if he is able to indeed get up there. But at the moment, sitting in P10, trying to close in on this battle between Ted Edwards and Lily Armstrong, a battle that looks about to spice up, and Ted Edwards cutting across, no interest in letting Lily through, and they're going to try and make that move once again down the main straight. It's going to be it's going to be slipstream for Lily Armstrong. Is it going to be the move? Is it going to be plain and simple, or is Ted Edwards going to make it a little bit more difficult? In fact, Lily did not get that move anywhere near down the main straight. There just wasn't enough straight line speed, so I think Lily might have gone for more of a prepared setup. For the corners, I mean, because this is, as I mentioned before, and I will continue to harp on about, an oversized karting track. So there's a lot of corners, a lot of mid-speed corners, which you need a lot of turning for, and Lily Armstrong facing the effects of it. Surely right now, we're going to try. She's going to try to make her way through on Ted, as they actually are closing in to the cars in front and building a gap to Will Stevenson. It's now 2.0 seconds, and Peter Varga 2.1 off Will. So at the moment, a little bit of a lull in the number 108 race as he awaits the possible penalty that could befall him.
Yeah, just checking in with the stewards at the moment. Lap 11, turn 12, involving the 95 and the 108. We do have a decision, and it was deemed racing incident, avoidable contact. So no harm, no foul for either car on that one. Will Stevenson will progress his way to the front. P10 currently. Gap has come down ever so slightly in the mid-sector to Lily Armstrong, so that will be that one there. Meanwhile, we've got a bit of contact possibly on pit exit. We do indeed. That's Peter Varga on Mike Redford. That's full on elbows out, and actually I don't think that was from pit exit. I think the pair had pinched each other so far down, it gave the illusion that they were coming out of the pit lane when in fact they weren't. Of course, left-hand side of your screen, everybody other than Tom Shipston and Les Stevenson at the bottom yet to take their mandatory pit stop, as Mike Redford peels off to the pit lane, probably very sensibly pulling himself out of the fight with Peter Varga. A bit of a mental reset, get himself back into the kind of zone, and back out he'll go for another 35 minutes on the clock. A lot of drivers electing to split the race in two. Of course, there is a mandatory stop here tonight, 20-minute pit window, 1 litre of fuel to be added, and a fixed refueling time of 25 seconds. So whether you add the litre, the 30 litres, 40 litres, however many you add, still 25 seconds you'll be held stationary for. Mike Redford, of course, 5-second penalty. That'll add another 5 seconds to his pit stop. So if you do want to take tyres, it's going to cost Mike Redford 35 seconds in the pit lane today versus everybody else's 30 seconds. Meanwhile, Marco Badowski at the front, relatively unfazed by the turquoise colour car of Andy Boardman in the background. He's managed to break away from Emo Plata, which has left himself and Raphael Kuhl in the background, just a second down to the good. But again, small mistakes at Zandvoort, that progression will soon disappear if it does happen here. Lots of grass and gravel to catch our drivers out, and two very different lines through the final turn there for Badowski and Boardman. Badowski electing for a bit of a wider turn in. Boardman keeping it tight, mounting the curb through the grass and gravel. He will go as well in the seek of extra time given, and losing about 0.2 in the final sector in the run to the start-finish line. And just looking at the track map, maybe a little bit of traffic on the horizon in the form of Les Stevenson. He's just coming out the corner ahead, although I think he's far enough in advance, Joe, that we won't see hopefully the race leaders tripping up Les Stevenson. The pit window time in theory will close before then, forcing everybody down the pit lane as Lily Armstrong and Neil Pimlock now tick off their mandatory stops. Tom Shipston still your provisional kind of leader on the road, should we say, that has made their stop, one of the earlier drivers to get that one ticked off the cards. And we did say earlier we'd keep an eye on pit stop timers. Les Stevenson, the longest pitter currently, with a 1 minute 10 roughly from pit in to pit out, our tool measures from. So we do have to kind of speculate a bit up here in the box. Tom Shipston at 53 seconds from pit in to pit out, and Mike Redford with 1 minute 4. So if you assume Shipston hasn't taken tyres, you add the 5-second penalty for Mike Redford, you add 5 seconds on for Mike Redford's tyres, potentially that puts Redford in roughly the new tyre strategy. So we'll have to keep an eye on Mike Redford's lap times versus everybody else and see how he transforms over the next stint or so, as we hit a bit of a lull, similar to what we did last week, if you remember, at Alton Park in the dark. Joe, everything kind of calmed down around the pit stop phase, and then it all kicked off in the final kind of 15-20 minutes again, when everybody found themselves together on the circuit once again.
You've stolen my saying, the lull. You've stolen my saying about that, but yeah, I mean, it is the pit stop phase at the moment, and that does mean that the strategies come into it more than anything else. But something else that remains consistent is Will Stevenson's pace. He's still only a tenth off of his absolute best lap, which is an impressive statistic, and he's going to try and continue that as Emo Plate is going to try and continue the battle with Bourman. This is Stevenson, who is he was closing in on Jackson, but Jackson came into the pit on the last lap, and Will Stevenson now sits in he now sits in a higher position than P8. He sits in P7, and a 10-second penalty is headed his way. So not what he would have wanted in any way, shape or form. And now he's just going to simply try to fight his way forward and ignore that. The number 108 has had the pace today to win this race, but he hasn't had the luck. And he's not been the cleanest, as we saw him have an incident earlier on, and then of course the incident that picked him up a 10-second time penalty. He's closing in now on Ted Ers, the car in front, although he will be thinking now about pit stops and all these sorts of things that will play into his strategy today. And the number 108 feels as though, at least on track, I would imagine that he can get further up and into maybe the podium position towards the end of the race. The 8.4 gap between Lindgren and Huell will be a huge task to bridge, but with the pace that he showed so far today, it's been so consistent that I can imagine he would just about do it. Andy Bourman even coming into the pits from the podium positions. He didn't want to suffer any more of that pressure he was coming under from Emo Plate, and but in the end I think that's going to gain him a little bit of time, because not only has he got the undercut, he now doesn't have to worry about Plate behind, and he can just get on with his own race.
Yeah, sometimes the easier thing, isn't it, to peel yourself out of the fights momentarily, find that clear air and try and get your head kind of back in the game, nail down those lap times and really get a move on through the circuit. Ted Ers inherits P5 through not taking, of course, the mandatory stops so far. So he'll find his way towards the front of the grid in some lovely clean air at the moment. Nobody ahead within eye shot, and nobody really behind. It's Callum Kerwin behind in the 777. Will Stevenson, of course, hunting down Ted Ers, but the 10-second penalty that was given for the lap 12, turn 12, involving the 199 and the 108. It was the 10 seconds for Will Stevenson. There was a touch, and it was deemed avoidable contact by our stewards. So Will Stevenson, once again, on the back foot after these pit stops, will have cycled through. So anybody that's new to ACC, time penalties given can be served within the pit stop regulation. So Will Stevenson will be held for an additional 10 seconds. Anybody picks up the penalty after the mandatory pit stop has been taken, it'll be added on, of course, to their final race time. So again, we have to do a little bit of comms box math sometimes to work out where people are going to end up once the checkered flag comes out. Marko Badowski relinquishes the race lead. He takes down his mandatory pit stop along with Christian Lindgren. Ted Ers cycles through once again. He'll promote himself up into P3 leaving Emo Plata still on the road with Raphael Huell. Meanwhile, Neil Pimlott getting very close with Evan Toth ahead. This is for P17 overall. Neil Pimlott, again, a bit of a seasoned veteran here at RCI, quite commonly seen on the Monday Gang side of things, and I believe sat in the Monday Gang voice chat with the two Callums, Kerwin and Kerrigan. Kevin Boss in there, Les Stevenson, Matthew Malcolm and Ted Edwards. I'd probably love to be a bit of a fly on the wall in there, Joe, especially when Les Stevenson ploughed through Callum Kerrigan like he wasn't even there. I'd love to have heard Callum Kerrigan's reaction to that one.
It would have certainly been interesting. I don't think it would have been possible to broadcast it, but it would have certainly been an interesting reaction nonetheless as well. Now, we're watching an incredible battle going on. They stay side by side for so long, but Neil Pimlott and I say they stayed. They're still side by side as they head down the main straight. Neil Pimlott and Evan Toth looking to the inside line goes Mike Redford, who's going to try and head through. Pimlott's been boxed in, and to the inside line goes Redford. That's a car coming out of the pit that could play a role in this battle, and it indeed has, as that is Redford going up into P18, almost P17, almost getting Neil Pimlott. And, the car in front as well, trying to head through as this is the comeback attempt around the outside. Not quite making that move stick. And this battle is about to heat up in this one, as we've got, 4 cars heading through very, very close together. It's Will Stevenson, Neil Pimlott, Mike Redford and Evan Toth involved in this one. Toth at the moment just backing out of it, not being particularly happy with, he's not been particularly happy with that pace. He did get boxed in into turn number 1, and from there he's just sort of been sticking behind this group, hoping that maybe there's a little bit of scrapping and he can slide his way through. But we almost had a three-wide moment heading into turn 1.
Yeah, turn 1 gets very hairy with the old pit lane release here at Zandvoort. It's straight out into the inside lane of turn 1. So when you get battles like that happening, cars coming out of the pit lane can really determine how the battle plays out through turns 2, 3 and 4 before, of course, opening over the top of the hill out of 4 into 5. And perfect example, what we saw there, of course, Will Stevenson being the kind of spanner in the works amongst Toth, Redford and, of course, Pimlott in their fights. Meanwhile, Evan Toth now sniffing at the back of Mike Redford after looking so confident heading down into turn 1. Dips a wheel coming out of the final turn. That puts Toth in the slipstream range. Redford goes defensive. Toth takes the wide line. A little bit of a jink too much. Scrubs some speed in the straight and not close enough to get the car alongside Mike Redford. He'll live to fight another day into turn 1. And revised Zandvoort, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Joe, the pit lane kind of exits on the exit of turn 1, so it really does stop those sudden cars appearing out of the pit lane. And speaking of pit lanes, Christian Lindgren with a stop-go 30, that's going to be for speeding in the pit lane when he came in to take his mandatory stop. Stewards not giving out stop-go 30s or drive-through penalties in their decisions as per their rulebook. So any drive-throughs, any stop-go 30s, it's been given out by the game, and things that catch it are track limits and speeding in the pit lane. So we can only assume Christian Lindgren, stop-go 30, that's going to be a hefty amount of speed into the pit lane. As your provisional race leaders come down the lane as well, Ted Urs and Peter Varga finally blink. That promotes Schaefer and Kerrigan up into the first 2 spots. Very provisionally, 4 minutes on the pit timer left to go. And just looking up and down the pit lane times, looks like Raphael Huell still on the same set of tyres. Andy Boardman and Badowski, I believe, have both taken tyres. Emo Plata, he's had a very quick stop. If it is for tyres, he's undercut Boardman by a whole second. Badowski by just half a second on that one. Aaron Jackson, 57 seconds. Lily Armstrong, 57s. There's lots of cars taking tyres from what I'm seeing. We've got Tom Shipston possibly not taking tyres in a bid to try and take some track position as Andy Boardman gets the elbows out on Raphael Huell. More stop-go 30s appearing on the board for Ted Urs and Peter Varga. Badowski up the inside as well now of Raphael Huell as they head through turn 9 in towards 10. The last of the late breakers. Badowski gets it done. Andy Boardman, though, is your race leader on the road currently, given how the mandatory pit stops have played out. Badowski drops back. There was a half a second between the two in the pit lane. Boardman 58.6, Badowski 58 flat. So Badowski quicker through the pit lane, but still losing out to Boardman somehow, somewhere. So I'm wondering if a bit of a fumble somewhere on the opening lap as they came out of the pit lane. But Andy Boardman is your race leader. Could he make it 4 of 4 here today, Joe? 22.5 minutes on the clock. Pit window's only open for another 2 minutes, which should clear the road ahead. A bit of traffic in the form of Callum Kerrigan gets way out of the way on the pit straight, allows the lead pack to go through. He takes his mandatory pit stop, actually, so that clears him off the road. Should be plain sailing for Boardman here, but Badowski breathing down his neck. Badowski has been looking rather quick here today. I think it's going to be settled in the dying stages of this race. And as we say, Joe, the lull has been, and now everybody's found themselves on the track again. It all begins to kick off for the final 22 minutes of this race.
Yeah, these top 4 have stayed so close together for so long, and so have these two. This is Mike Redford and Evan Toad, who are continuing their battle as they head through the 22nd lap of this Zandvoort circuit that they have competed in the race at least. And well, it's Toad right on the rear now of Redford as Pimlott and Stevenson have broken free of this battle, but these two still wage on. But yeah, Boardman, Badowski, Huell and Plate are going to be the 4 in the battle for the lead of this race today, and it's going to be a very, very tight battle between them all. But Andy Boardman looking to go for yet another victory in this series, and well, he's got Badowski for company, so it's not going to be plain sailing. Huell 1.4 seconds behind, but if Badowski tries to fight like he is now, then it's going to be a huge, well, it's going to be more difficult for Andy Boardman. It's going to be a huge fight that will erupt between them, as Huell 1.4 seconds behind will get absolutely slashed by that as Schaefer comes into the pits. The final pit stop has been taken with less than a minute left on the pit window clock, and well, it's Badowski trying to close in on Andy Boardman down the main straight once again. We saw him try to make that move before. We're going to see him try and make that move again. We're going to see Emo Plate try to get past Raphael Huell as he picks up the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and he heads through down the inside line of turn number 1. Can he get that traction down on the exit? The answer is a resounding yes. And Emo Plate is now up into P4, and it's fair to say that he earned that one.
Remember how I said earlier that new tyres are certainly going to be the factor on conversation tonight. Just looking at the previous lap times, it was Raphael Huell of 1:45.1 versus Emo Plate's 1:44.1. A full second difference a lap, 5 seconds extra in the pit lane. You do the maths. 5 laps time, you've already paid back the new tyre switch. So Zandvoort, like Hungaroring, certainly proving to be the track to take the fresh set of boots on, and we're going to see probably a few more battles yet from those that have elected to take track position over a set of new tyres. Here we see Will Stevenson with Tom Shipston as they come over the ebbs and flows of the circuit. Shipston wants nothing to do with that and bails out over the dirty line. There's no grip out there at all. I'm not sure if there was a bump from Will Stevenson. I'm not seeing anything on my end, but let's catch a race replay here as they head over the hill. Tom Shipston sticks to the outside line, and I think he just does himself dirty. He doesn't realise how much, how little grip there is. Does the old Dukes of Hazzard over the escape road and finds his way back onto the circuit. So a bit of a time loss. Pirelli's slightly dirtied. I don't think Tom took tyres looking at his last pit stop time as a 53.4 versus, of course, normally the faster guys on tyres we're expecting to see in the 57-58 realm. So Will Stevenson, with that additional 10 seconds, he's taken 1 minute 11 to get through his pit cycle. So that kind of suggests that even with the 10 seconds and an additional 5 seconds, 2 seconds maybe for damage fixing in there somewhere, Will Stevenson should be on a fresh set of Pirellis as well, which is going to help him, of course, as he begins the fight towards the front once again. Ted Ayres down for a stop-go 30. I'm not sure if he cleared it initially, Joe, on that one. I've not really been paying much attention to the penalties. I'm sure I saw that clear. And I'm sure Ted Ayres has maybe picked up another one trying to serve the initial one.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge mistake from Tedders if that is indeed the case, and that has really put pay to a race that looked pretty promising. He was decent in terms of his raw pace, and of course now he's going to drop down the field now, which consists of these three fighting away. It's Matt Malcolm, Mike Redford and Evan Toad. We've seen Toad pretty much non-stop in battles. He's had a very exciting race today, and it will continue on as he's right now on the rear of Mike Redford and trying to get that move done once again, but he just can't quite find an opportunity as it stands, and he will just roll in behind for the time being, waiting for a mistake to be eked out. As well, there's 5 seconds now up to Neil Pimlott ahead, and so it's going to be difficult for him to branch that, especially because when he did have that clean air, it was actually Pimlott that built that gap up as opposed to Toad breaking it down. But he's now going to try and get past Redford at the earliest available opportunity, and you can see how close he is, how desperate he is to make that move past, as he's just really trying to pressure out of almost every single one of these corners, and it is as it is at the moment. He stays in behind, but Redford he won't be scared necessarily by the car in P14 at the moment, the Caillou car of the number 78, but he will feel that pressure as they head through now around the final corner and head on to start lap number 24 of their chase around the Zandvoort circuit. And don't forget as well about Matt Malcolm, as he might be pulling to the inside line of Toad, or maybe just trying to spot an opportunity, or maybe even just to spot his braking point, just to make sure that he got through that corner okay, and he's now behind Toad. These three are going to continue to pressure each other through. It's Toad and Malcolm trying to find their way past Redford, but as it stands, Redford is holding firm in 13th.
Yeah, Redford's been around the block a few times at RCI. I'm sure he's not going to be too fazed by the drivers behind him. Interesting fact of today, at the moment, left-hand side of your screen, 2 purple drivers. That's not a bug. That is 2 separate drivers have set the exact same fastest lap time of this race. And that's a 1 minute 44.147. Emo Plata and Will Stevenson have both set this time. It's not a bug within ACC. This happens once in a blue moon. But 2 drivers, 2 completely different cars in 2 completely different parts of the circuit, both set the exact same lap time. And it still boggles my mind to this day. But Emo Plata, as soon as I say that, beating that off the board, a 1:44.115 is now the fastest lap of the race, and Boardman not too far off with a 1:80. And we do of course give bonus points for the fastest lap of the race. So 3 bonus points for the fastest lap, 4 bonus points for the pole position as well, meaning there's a considerable points haul on if you do take pole, the fastest lap and the race win. You're going to net yourselves some healthy championship points to try and catch Andy Boardman back up in the form of 72 points. Of course, Andy Boardman, clean sweep of hat-tricks so far. Will it continue today at Zandvoort? He's ahead of Marco Badowski by over half a second now. He's just nearly outside of the slipstreaming range of 0.6 of a second here in ACC. Emo Plata a second off the back of Marco Badowski. He's slowly becoming into the John Dalton zone, just where you're not fast enough for the guy ahead, but you're too fast for the guy behind. So you sit in this awkward no man's land where you don't really gain a lot and you don't really lose a lot. You just have quite an easy race all by yourself. Of course, Raphael Huell 4 seconds off the back of Plata. No fresh tyres for Huell, so he'll continue hemorrhaging time towards the checkered flag. Aaron Jackson 14 seconds off the back of Raphael Huell, and some considerable time as well off the back of Lily Armstrong, which you see Martin Schaefer running a bit wide there through turn number 9 as they come through turn 10. Neil Pimlott breathing down his neck, trying to take an additional space away. This is the fight for P11. Neil Pimlott will go to the outside of turn 13. That will of course become the inside line for the next corner if he can make it stick, although run slightly too deep. The space given to Schaefer, who will get the better drive off the corner. Schaefer tries to drop down, finds Neil Pimlott's car on the inside. Both touch wheels and no harm, no foul. They both get back underway once again, but it's going to be one for the stewards to look into as Schaefer runs wide in the penultimate corner. Neil Pimlott swoops up the inside, although Schaefer trying to come back on the inside of the exit, tucks into the slipstream of Neil Pimlott's car. Down into turn 1 they'll go. Which way will Schaefer go? He's going to try and go the long way around. Neil Pimlott a bit cautious on the brakes. Schaefer certainly runs deeper, tries to do the old up and under, the old better drive, early acceleration off the corner, but it's still not enough to draw alongside Neil Pimlott as they head up towards turn number 4. Martin Schaefer losing out P11, although I don't think this one might be done yet. I think Schaefer could have it in him. If he could stick close to Pimlott, he might be able to force the mistake out of the number 146.
Yeah, and I mean, there has been a couple of moments today where we've seen some drivers who looked so good make just a minimal mistake. We've had quite a few mistakes, especially in the early portions of this race. It has calmed down a little bit. The drivers have settled into the Zandvoort circuit and all of the elevation changes that it has. And at the moment, there hasn't appeared to be any mistakes, at least for the time being. Now that I've said that, the next lap is going to be absolute carnage, I'm sure. But as we head on to lap number 27 now, we will continue to see some of these fights like Matt Malcolm right on the rear of Les Stevenson, who's recovered well to go up to P15 at the moment, especially after the contact earlier on and then the subsequent issues that he faced. But now he's right ahead of Matt Malcolm, who's going to try to make his way past at the earliest possible convenience. But Stevenson, with the pace that he showed so far this race, I wouldn't be surprised if he puts on a stout defence and is able to hold on to that position for the time being. P15 is this battle, and it is the closest battle on this circuit, apart from, of course, the battle between Redford and Toad, which continues on until the end of time, it seems. And as well as the other Stevenson, Will, who is not too far behind now, Ted Edwards, and they're just jostling each other through turn number 4, and they will continue to jostle each other through turn number 4, as this is them right now. Stevenson right on the rear of Edwards now as they head through this section, which is just, you can't tap on the brakes. It's not quite as straight, it's not quite a corner either. It's registered as turns number 6 and 7 on the circuit, and a bit generous to call them turns, as they are just essentially changes in line as you head down the faux straight now. And Stevenson just looking to the inside line of Ted Edwards, not making that move but forcing a mistake out of the number 8, who currently sits in number 8, but not a big enough mistake for him to find his way through. He's going to try and get exactly the same thing on the exit, just driving through behind the number 8, pulling to the outside line of the chicane. Is he able to make this move stick? They're going to be side by side, wheel to wheel, as they head into it. Stevenson trying not to dip a tyre into the gravel. He's done well, but he's being squeezed also tight by Ted Edwards. And on the exit, they are still side by side. They're going to head into the final 2 corners of this lap. Still side by side, but in the end, it was Ted Edwards with that inside line who takes the advantage. Stevenson trying for the switchback, but he's going to have to take it once again down that main straight. And, well, if he can get that slipstream down, if he can get that straight line speed sorted, he will be able to make this move. And he's going to try and now pull to the inside line. But it appeared to be an attempt at just forcing a mistake out of Ted Edwards, which did not come. And they remain in 8th and 9th. Stevenson once again getting the exit advantage over Edwards. But once again, having to sit right in behind. This will be frustrating for Stevenson, as he knows he can make this move. He knows he's got that pace to take this lead in this battle. But at the moment, Edwards holding firm and holding P8 just by the skin of his teeth. Once again, we're back round to the same quote-unquote straight. And now this is the opportunity for Stevenson. Not quite. Edwards slams the door, and Stevenson still sits in behind, but he is absolutely desperate to make this move stick.
I think Will's spitting feathers sat at the back of Ted Edwards' car. Ted's making that Ginetta so wide at the moment and putting up an excellent defence as they head through the middle sector. Stevenson with a late dart to the inside, trying to put Ted's eye off the corner, and I think he's done just enough. Ted runs a tad wide coming out of turn 10 down towards, turn 11, down towards turn 12 and 13. They shall go. Stevenson once again on the outside line, Edwards on the inside line. We saw this last lap. It's almost an action replay as Will Stevenson on the inside. He's got the nose ahead, but Ted Edwards, with the better drive off the corner towards turn 14. They will go. Ted Edwards once again prevailing in the fight. Will Stevenson, although the old up and under, down into turn 15. The inside line is there. There's only really one line through the final corner, and both going side by side as they head down the main straight towards turn number 1. They'll go trying tucking in. It looks like Ted Edwards with the skinnier wing on the car. Will Stevenson certainly heavier wing, much more confident through the corners. Tries to go the high side through turn 1. The inside line prevailing once again as they come out towards turns 2, 3 and 4. We're still in stalemate here, Joe. Neither driver giving it inch. Ted Edwards with a small mistake, but keeps the inside line. Will Stevenson runs up the banking, and we go once again across the top of the sand dunes here at Zandvoort.
Ted Edwards making that number 8 so very wide, and he's holding on to that position by the skin of his teeth, as I just mentioned, but he's still somehow holding on with all this pressure coming from behind from Will Stevenson. He's pulling now to the inside, could be the outside, but he just sits right back in as they head up to Renault Bosch now, turn number 10 on this circuit. And Stevenson is attempting to make a move here once, twice, and now 3 times as he sends it into the side of Ted Edwards. And Edwards making that car just that little bit too wide. He's letting him back through, to be fair to him. And, that's the only real way you could have done that, because there is no way he would have wanted that move to have been made just like that, as this is an action replay then. And he just tried to take that racing line, disregarding the fact that Edwards was on that line, and has let him right back through. The battle wages on with Tedwards ahead of the number 108 and continues ahead of the number 108 as we head on to what will now be the 31st lap. These two have been scrapping away for the last 4 laps, and they're going to continue on, as that is Stevenson trying to search for a gap around the outside. Edwards trying to take that outside line, and that means that Stevenson is going to try it down the inside. It's a late lunge from the number 108, but he makes it stick this time. Is there an exit for Edwards that means that he can get back through? The answer is no, and Stevenson finally gets ahead of Edwards. What can Edwards do though on the next lap, because he was able to make the move back past? Is he going to lick the stamp and send it? We will see as they head through now into sector number 2. Edwards continuing now. He's become the driver to try to apply the pressure, and he's going to try to do that to full effect as he now he attempts to do what Stevenson did on that previous lap and apply said pressure, but at the moment it's getting very, very dicey for this P8.
Very dicey indeed, and an admirable effort, I think, from Ted Edwards. We can all agree up here in the comms box, keeping Will Stevenson behind for that long. I have no idea how Ted did that, but a fantastic display. If you do want to rewind this VOD back on Defence at Zandvoort, that's certainly going to be one to watch there. Meanwhile, Evan Toth and Mike Redford still locked together in their fight. They've broken away a little bit from Matthew Malcolm, who's been passed by Les Stevenson now in the background as well. So the number 46 could soon be on the back of these two if they start fighting and really taking lumps out of each other. That 2 seconds gap is going to dwindle down pretty fast, although I think Mike Redford very sensible. I think Evan Toth equally thinking of the bigger picture here, knowing that it's going to be a hard move to make, and with just over 4 minutes to go, and where Andy Boardman is on the circuit, I think we've got about 2, maybe 3 laps at a push to get this one done before the timer stops and the checkered flag comes out. These guys, though, relatively unfazed. Nobody ahead of them, nobody really behind them. Evan Toth just trying to kind of focus on the back of Mike Redford to keep him close. Should that mistake be made, of course, they can then make the pass successfully. But Toad looking very good on the brakes into turn 1. Redford, in theory, should prevail with the drive off the corner. And track status, top right-hand side. It's not what Kevin Boss wanted to see tonight, but we have finally reached optimum. So time should be getting a little bit faster as fuel burns off. And, of course, those drivers on newer tyres might even see the fastest lap of the race, which is still held by Emo Plata, 1 minute 44.1. Last time by was a 44.6. So certainly dial back the clock a little bit as Evan Toth using the slipstream, sniffing at the back of Mike Redford over the top of the sand dunes. Towards the middle sector, they'll go the Kaiju Cornflakes car, one of my probably favourites of the NASCAR-themed series. Unfortunately, haven't seen too many more of them. I think there was a Dale Earnhardt Senior one back in the day, Joe. That was quite a spectacle. And the Jeff Gordon DuPont kind of rainbow livery themed colours. That was another one that was cooked up by the Kaiju team. Always a fantastic effort on liveries, and certainly one to keep your eye on. And if you do want to get involved in the madness that you've witnessed here tonight at Zandvoort, and you think, you know what, I fancy myself in the Ginetta Cup, there's still 2 rounds of this fantastic championship to go. Next week, we head to Snetterton, and the week after, we take a trip down to Italy for the final round at Imola, which is going to be quite an interesting circuit. Big, open, GT F1-esque style circuit, and we put these small little buzzy go-karts heading around for an hour. So Imola's going to be one to watch. Snetterton always provides a lot of chaos, but towards the front, we've had a change in race lead. Boardman has relinquished to Badowski, and Emo Plata is latched on the back of these two. I'm wondering if there's been some kind of mistake. Let's have a race replay side by side. Badowski and Boardman as they headed through turns 3 and 4, and there was the hip and shoulder from Boardman on Badowski. I'm wondering if Boardman felt a little bit guilty, backed out the throttle, and made it side by side as they headed over the dunes. And Emo Plata certainly closing up that gap. We've now got a 3-car fight for the top step of the podium. The clock reads just over 1:30. This will be the final lap of the race. We're about to begin here, and P1, 2 and 3 are all locked together. There's a small bit of traffic on the horizon, but I don't think it's going to come into play as we begin the final lap here at Zandvoort. Marco Badowski for Team Monkey Racing leads. Andy Boardman is going to be kicking himself that he's relinquished 4 of 4 top step podiums in this championship. The corners are running down, the time is equally running down, and this will definitely be the final lap of the race with Emo Plata in the background. Marco Badowski, he's just got to hold on a few more corners. Of course, bear in mind, we think this could be all cars at the front on fresh tyres. So who has managed the tyres? Who's got the pressures correct in the pit stop as the track begins, of course, to rubber in. We've hit optimum, so pressures that you set at the beginning and in the middle of the race are going to be out of the window again as Badowski prevails on through the middle sector of the race. Boardman still there within earshot should a mistake be made. There's dust being kicked up ahead. I don't think it's going to affect the race leaders all too much. I think it's Gianni Lenz just ahead in the number 7. Emo Plata still at the back, front row seats to the fight should it all kick off. But I think Badowski in the Team Monkey Racing number 45 has done just about enough to claw on as they head down towards turn number 12. There's only a few more braking zones to go, a few more corners to keep it on the straight and narrow, and it looks like potentially Team Monkey Racing could prevail as the white flag comes out. This will be the final lap for your race leaders, whether Gianni Lenz pulls alongside and lets them through or goes one more. Time is to be told, but Badowski should be the leader on the road as he comes out of the final turn, begins the run towards the line. Boardman and Plata, nobody's close enough to capitalise on a position. Marco Badowski takes victory here at Zandvoort, followed closely by Andy Boardman and Emo Plata. Raphael Huell, wait for me, guys. He's in the background. He comes through in P4, and that is the difference, Joe, between taking fresh tyres and not taking tyres. And you can see there the pure gap of nearly 10 seconds to the race leader. And Aaron Jackson, the next person through on the road, he takes a P5 in the number 99 Kaiju car. And in the background, Lily Armstrong comes through in P6, followed very closely by Olivier Curtin. Will Stevenson, though, an admirable effort, P8. We'll see the King Brothers racing car, followed by Ted Edwards in P9. And Tom Shipston, surprisingly, somehow up into P10, Joe. I don't even know how Shipston managed that one. He's been lurking at the back of the field. Barton Schaefer and Neil Pimlott, 11 and 12th. Redford, followed quickly by Toth, by Les Stevenson coming on through as well. And still a few more stragglers to pick up. Matthew Malcolm in P16. Event admin Kevin Boss chased down by Callum Kerrigan. He's clawing on for the victory towards the line. That's purely for friendship honours at the moment. Christian Lindgren with his stop go 30, P19. The most terrifying livery of the race, Ted Ers with a bit of a victory drift, maybe through the penultimate corner. He's got to be careful though. Peter Varga could take another position off him as they begin the run to the line. Is the Team Monkey car going to be close enough? I don't think it is. Ted Ers prevails. Peter Varga comes through in P21. And Gianni Lenz at the back of the field will be your final car to finish in P22. We said it in the middle, Joe. There was a bit of a lull, and then it all kicked off once again with provisional race results on your screen at the moment, of course, pending any further stewards' inquiries. What an absolutely great finish again to a fantastic race here at RCI.
Yeah, Badowski was so desperate to get that race lead. I don't know how long you were watching on with that battle for, but it was absolutely hammering the rear of Andy Boorman around the final, around that lap where he was able to get past every single corner. He would pull out to the inside or the outside, and then the inside again, and then the outside. It was literally every single corner on that lap before he was able to get past. He was pressuring, and well, that is the effect of the fresher, I guess, tyres. He felt as though he had the fresher tyres and the slightly more worn ones of the man in P2, who of course slips off the top step of the podium and does not take that race victory today. But what a race we did have on our hands at the circuit Zandvoort, and well, Netherlands delivered.
Yeah, Netherlands delivered, and Kevin Boss certainly cooking up another good recipe here today. Amy, you've been lurking in the background with us on what is maybe one of your ACC debuts here with us here at RCI TV. I hope you've enjoyed your stay here tonight, and what a race to choose for your first one. It's certainly been action-packed as we begin to take a look back at the highlights.
It certainly was. I couldn't take my eyes off. It was just so exciting and interesting, this race. I want to highlight Stephenson. He was climbing the pools from the early start of the race, from the battle between Carrigan and Curtin, and even letting Les obviously get through as well, due to the unfortunate of Carrigan just got a little bit carried away there with his turning. But I will have to say Stefan has been climbing, and in that fight with Edwards at the end, around the 6-minute mark, and the fact he won his battle between 8th place, it's just astounding to watch. Again, as I mentioned, it was unfortunate for Carrigan. His determination obviously just got the better of him, and sadly got Stephenson to overtake him. And I would just want to apologise also for Shipton, who also had a fortunate start to the race. Now, there's a couple of things I want to highlight as well. I want to highlight for Jackson that in the qualifying, you certainly saw that he was always constant and consistent between 5th and 6th place, and this did not. It just kept building. So with Jackson and Linden was constant between 5th and 6th place at the early start, and then even at the last place with the pit stop, Jackson still was able to get his lead and continued getting 6th place, and then finally finishing at 5th place. And also, I just want to give a shout out to an interesting battle between Toff, Evan. I always call him Even, so it's a joke from the wedding. But Toth and Redford, they were an exciting battle from going back and forth. And I want to also shout out to Boardman as well. He had quite a few fastest laps during his time. And the fight between him and 45 between the end, it was just outstanding to watch. And it was unfortunate that Boardman lost his last stand between 45. I'm guessing that must have been very frustrating for Boardman. But overall, this has been a fantastic race to watch, and I really can't wait to get stuck into more races like this, so bring them on. I think they're interesting to know what the next stage is going to be and what our racers are going to bring next time around for the next race.
Yeah, absolutely so, Amy. And of course, if you do want to get involved here at RCI, head on over to the website, racerci.com. Plenty on offer at the moment. The Ready Set Sim Endurance Series on iRacing, that's entering round 2 very soon. Still 5 positions left in that one to have. Prize money on the line alongside trophies. Of course, LMU Fridays have wrapped up. However, they've been replaced with LMU Night Owl. That features hyper sprint, so hypercars thrown into a sprint race format. It's going to be for some frantic racing there. 16 of 38 places filled at the moment, so don't miss out. That starts very soon. And World Tour sign-ups also open on the website. That's a popular RCI series. We've already got some teams beginning to form for pre-qualifying. 15 out of the 200 slots available. Shorter calendar this year, 4 rounds instead of 5. Still features the 24-hour race, which I realised the other night I won't be in the country for, so I'm rather sad about that one. We do have a couple of interviews going on at the moment. Ash has managed to wrangle one of them. Les Stevenson, welcome into the box. I am curious to know what was said when you ploughed through Callum at turn 1.
Sorry.
We thought it might not be available to be televised, but yeah, certainly we saw it on the broadcast and looked like chaos out there.
That was the polite version. But yeah, no, I just it kind of he didn't realise I was there. I was trying the undercut or the switcheroo, and it didn't quite pay off. And I took Callum out, and I'm eternally sorry. I just couldn't believe it happened. And not one of my best races, but thoroughly enjoyed myself, and everyone that was in the Monday game chat. We all had a great laugh as always.
Yeah, we'd love to have been a fly on the wall in that voice chat for sure this week. Snetterton and Imola coming up. Anyone you're not looking forward to pick particularly out of the two?
Just Snetterton, to be honest. I love Imola. Imola's one of my favourite, if not my favourite track of all time. I don't know why I love it so much, but I really do. And we have a running joke between Callum and I where I joke around and say that I'm picking my Imola setup for this track. It doesn't matter what the track is, it's the Imola setup because I just seem to go well at Imola. But now I've said that, of course, I'll probably jinx myself. But yeah, really looking forward to Imola. But it's a shame, man. I mean, that means that you're telling me we've only got 2 races left. And that's really gone very, very quick. But no, it's been a great championship so far. I've not had the best of luck, and I got turned around today. I turned around Callum, and it's not been the cleanest of champs for me. But I'm still having fun. That's the main thing.
Yeah, it's the aim of the game, isn't it? With the Monday series, it's more about the fun social aspect. I'd certainly say of RCI than any of the other championships we offer. Les, just before we let you go tonight, anyone you'd like to say thank you to?
Massive thank you to Callum for taking it on the chin for my little tap today, but also my livery, because it's thanks to Callum that I have this wonderful livery. Someone managed to mention something about there's a special sticker on the roof. I don't know what they're going on about. I just love the camo and obviously the fat stick on there as well, with a bit of road poker fun as well.
Yeah, we've not seen the roof either, so yeah, no idea what's going on there. Certainly don't pay attention at any point in any of the Ginetta races to Les's roof, and we'll all get along fine and be okay. Les, we're going to let you get off for tonight. We understand you have to be somewhere, but thank you for dropping in for a brief word anyway.
Thanks, guys, and as always, great broadcast. Thanks to the stewards as well for the live stewarding today, and just thanks to everyone.
Les Stevenson, as always, all-round great guy, and another shout out to him for helping me build my sim rig, because without him, I couldn't have done it. And kudos to you, Les. Big clap all round on that one. We move from Les to Ted. Ted Edwards, you were locked in a fight with Will Stevenson. Looked very hectic, looked very kind of elbows out when it got towards the end. And obviously you and Will have been within the RCI community quite regularly. So that looked hard is all I'm going to say on that one.
It was fun. It was really fun. I had a few mistakes in that race. I sort of missed the 100-meter board at turn 1 and braked at the 50, so I lost position to Curtin. So I couldn't catch up with him. So I was like, okay, here comes Will after having his penalty, and he's going to blast straight through me. I was like, I'm just going to turn this Ginetta into the width of the track, and it was really fun actually. It wasn't too difficult because this track is you just put someone into a position where they can't get past you. Like you think, no, they can just go around the outside. This just doesn't happen. And then my rear end slipped and I bounced off him into a wall, which didn't really affect the car. It just gave me body damage, but he was just gone by then.
Well, it certainly showed that you had a run for his money for giving you that battle between you and Stephenson. So well done, pat yourself on the back, Ted. It looked fantastic out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, say Ted looked very tricky. Snetterton and Imola coming up. Either one of the two you're not going to like?
Well, it was meant to rain today,
It was.
so I'm expecting rain at one of them. Some reason I think Imola, because I don't know, because I guess Snetterton's a bit boring, as in the sense of it's a really wide track. There's not really much you can do. You get onto a back straight, you probably rev out in 6th or near enough. But I do like Snetterton. I've always have. I'm that weird odd person that enjoys it. But I do like Imola, and I think these cars around that chicane would do actually okay, because this thing just jumps over curbs like it's nothing.
Yeah, absolutely champs curb. So I was doing a few laps last night. Turn 12, the big inside curb, it just champs it. It doesn't even phase it. So yeah, Imola certainly will be an interesting one to see. Just before we let you go, Ted, anyone you'd like to say thank you to?
I'd say thank you to Katrina, as she made my livery and puts up with me using the bandwidth in the evening. And I'd like to say thank you to you guys for broadcasting this, commentating this, and the stewards obviously for putting up with all the carnage that can happen, which wasn't too bad today. There was some penalties, but actually it seemed pretty clean from our end of driving. But yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to all the drivers that participate in any of our championships. Without them, it just wouldn't be fun. We'd be doing one race a week and probably about 10 people.
Yeah, certainly a big shout out to the community, and as we always say on RCI TV, a big shout out to you guys at home, because without you it wouldn't be possible what we do and where we've come from such a kind of panicked beginning to where we are now, of course, hosting paid competitions along the way, and some real feats in there as well. So from me, it's definitely a big thank you to everyone at home as well. As Ted alluded to, there are some events on the website you can sign up to if you're a driver. RaceRCI.com. Hypersprint Night Owl World Tour on there at the moment, and of course the RSS Endurance Series in iRacing is also on there. That's still in the very early stages, round 2 at Daytona, April 12th. So you've still got time to test. Still got a bit of time to practice and get signed up as well. €400 prize pool on the cards, and for the first time ever, RCI trophies. So if you do want some exclusive silverware, certainly get your teeth stuck into iRacing. It's been a great broadcast tonight. Lots of things kicking off along the way, and of course a big thank you to our partners. They've been revolving around in the bottom right hand side of your screen. Ready Set Sim, Coach Dave Delta, Green Man Gaming, IMB Racewear, Moser Racing, and of course not forgetting Motorsport UK Esports recommended community. You can find all of their links down below, alongside all of ours, including the website and the Discord. Discord, of course, being the central point for all things social and arranging. The website being done for all of the sign-ups, and improvements to the website should be coming this year as well. Next week, you will catch us here on RCI TV once again. No Friday broadcast. LMU has wrapped up, so it is just Ginetta Cup for the foreseeable 2 weeks. Snetterton next week, and we hit Imola the week after that, where the championship rounds out. Andy Boardman, of course, the quadruple victories have been destroyed tonight. Will Stevenson still within earshot, with Raphael Kuhl lurking in the championship fight as well. We'll have to see who prevails when we head out of Imola in 2 weeks' time. But for tonight, from myself, John Dalton, from Ash Bibby behind the cameras, from Joseph Black alongside me, and Amy chiming in as well with a few good and fair points along the way. Hopefully we'll see more of her on RCI TV as well. And of course, all of our live stewards, we'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us here tonight. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the week, and you can catch myself and Joseph Black back on RCI TV next Monday. That's the 31st. Same time, same place. Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful week, and we hope to see you sometime soon.
You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel. Let's let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow, go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. The miles they fade, but they don't die. Faster now, the hours fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss us goodbye. Don't slow down, we're not done. Finish line for the strong ones. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Feel the rush, see the goal. Every second, take control. The world blurs, time won't wait. We rise, we fight, we excel.